Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Scotland at 7 with me, Gordon Ross. It's the 5th of February 2020, and today we have several items to show you a little bit of a different programme tonight. In our first item this evening, we'll be looking at the care review statement made by the First Minister today at Holyrood. So we'll have some video coming up just in a moment for you about the care review statement.
Thank you. The next item of business is a statement by Nicola Sturgeon on independent care review. The First Minister will take questions at the end of her statement, so there should be no interventions or interruption. I call on Nicola Sturgeon. First Minister, please.
Presiding Officer, the Independent Care Review has this morning published one of the most significant reports we will consider in this term of Parliament. Indeed, I consider this to be one of the most important moments in my tenure as First Minister so far. I'm making this statement today to underline my political and my personal commitment to turning its vision of how we must care for our most vulnerable young people into reality as quickly as possible. I don't mind saying that I felt very emotional when I read The Promise, the report's main volume. There is a really powerful simplicity to what it says we, and most importantly, the young people who experience it, should expect from a good care system. It should have love and nurture at its heart. Wherever possible, families must be supported to stay together. When that's not possible, the relationships that matter to young people, particularly with brothers and sisters, must be protected. And the priority when a child needs our care must be the provision not of a series of placements or arrangements driven by the needs of bureaucracy, but of stable, safe, secure, loving homes that allow them to experience the joys and the normal challenges of growing up and to fulfil their potential in life. None of that should be at all controversial, but it distresses me, as I am sure it does all of us, that this is not the experience for all young people who are in or who have passed through our care. To be blunt, we let too many of them down. They pay the price of that for the rest of their lives, and in too many instances, the price can be a life cut short. The statistics have always told us that, but in this report, we hear it directly from the young people we have a responsibility for. And that's not just true here in Scotland. There is possibly no country in the world where the Care Review's vision of care is yet a living reality. The opportunity for Scotland as a result of this report is to become the first country that makes it so. And I am determined that we do that. I want today to put on record my sincere thanks to Fiona Duncan and to all of the review group members for all the work they have put into this report. They have done, in my view, a truly outstanding job. I also want to pay tribute to Who Cares Scotland, a driving force behind the review's creation. Perhaps the most important achievement of the review, the reason its conclusions are so powerful, is that it has the voices of people in care at its heart. People with experience of care made up half the review's co-chairs and working group members. The review listened to more than 5,500 people. More than half of them were children, young people, adults and families with direct experience of care. The others were paid and unpaid carers, and their stories have shaped everything in this report. I want to take the opportunity today to thank each and every one of those 5,500. I know that sharing stories about painful and traumatic personal experiences is not easy. However, by doing so, you have all helped make things better for children and young people in the future. And I know that the care experience voice in this report is real. Since 2016, I have met personally with just over 1,000 young people who have experienced care, and I will carry these conversations in my heart for the rest of my life. Indeed, some of the early conversations led directly to the creation of the review, and as I read the report, I heard from every single page the voices and the stories of the kind of people I have met. And let me be very clear, I have met so many young people with good experience of care who are doing brilliantly. I've also met many young people who are doing brilliantly, even though their care experience was not good. That is down entirely to their talents and their resilience. I've also seen firsthand the dedication, commitment and passion of those who work in our care sector, and I want to thank them today for that. But I have also heard far too many heartbreaking stories. Because despite the best efforts and intentions of everyone involved, the actual experience of too many people in care is not what they have a right to expect. The world described in today's report of a care system that feels fractured, bureaucratic, unfeeling, stigmatising, and mired in impersonal language like placements, contact and respite to describe what should be loving relationships is one that I have had recounted to me many times. That must change. That is why the vision and blueprint for transformational change set out in the promise is so vitally important. At its heart are 5 foundations of care. Firstly, voice. Children must be heard and listened to in all of the decisions about their care. Second, family. Whenever possible, families should be supported to stay together with their children. Our first priority should be to do all we can to keep children out of care and with their own families. Third, care. Where living with their own family isn't possible, children must stay with their brothers and sisters where safe to do so, and they must belong to a stable, loving home. Fourth, people. Those in the workforce and wider community who look after children must be well supported so that they in turn can provide compassionate, loving care and decision making. And fifth, scaffolding. The system that surrounds all of this, the system of help, decision making, support and crucially accountability must be more supportive and responsive. The report also makes a really important but also very challenging point about risk. Of course, we must always consider the immediate risk of harm to a child when decisions are made about their care. But we must also consider the risk created when we remove a child from their family or overburden their childhoods with bureaucracy. The risk then is that we compound their trauma and make it harder for them to enjoy stable, loving, long-term relationships. Protecting family relationships and, above all, allowing children to enjoy the kind of childhood that others take for granted is often the best way of protecting children from harm. The report also sets out very clearly the direct costs of supporting children in care and also the hidden costs of the failures of care, the long-term human and financial costs that are borne not just by society, but more importantly by the individuals whose experience of being let down by care impacts negatively on their life chances. Presiding Officer, I hope all members will take the time to read this report in full. I've tried to summarise its principles and key conclusions as best I can, but in the short time I have available today, I cannot possibly do justice to the detail of the 80 specific changes that it recommends. What I can and will say unequivocally is that I am determined to get on at pace with implementing it. That will involve practical change at every level, but more fundamentally, it will require a transformation in the culture of care. As the review has been doing its work, the Scottish Government has already made some changes, for example, the introduction of the Care Experience Bursary. But today's report leaves no room for doubt that we must do more, and we must do it more fundamentally, more systematically, and more quickly. Radical overhaul is what the review demands, and that is what we have a duty to deliver. I want to be clear, though, that we will continue to listen to care experience voices who have additional ideas and suggestions to make. There is not, and there never will be, or should be, a closed door. But we will act straight away to implement the plan section of the report. There are 2 key immediate elements to this. The first is the establishment of a team to take the report and turn it quickly into a detailed delivery plan. And although the report recognises that full implementation of its vision will take time, the process of change must and will start immediately. The second is the creation of an independent oversight body. I can confirm that both groups will include people with experience of care. In fact, half of the members of the oversight body, including the chair, who will be from outside the Scottish Government, will be people with experience of care. These groups will ensure we keep up the momentum that has been established by this review. The Government aims to make progress in a matter of weeks, and we will update Parliament regularly thereafter. Presiding Officer, throughout this care review process, and as I have been speaking to 1,000 voices, I have been struck by the fact that for, I think, ministers in particular, but actually for all parliamentarians, the responsibility we owe to young people in care is a very special one. In fact, ensuring that they have an equal chance to succeed, that they benefit from the stable, loving relationships that so many of us took for granted when we were growing up, is one of the most important duties that any of us have in public life. It is a duty that I take very seriously and very personally. Today's report makes the need for action overwhelmingly clear. It sets out the extent of our obligations. However, it also gives us an opportunity, the opportunity to change thousands of young people's futures for the better. The Scottish Government is determined to take that opportunity. We will work with local authorities, care providers and all other relevant partners to make the necessary changes to care. We will deliver that change as quickly and as safely as possible, and starting now. And we will ensure that people with care experience remain at the heart of the process. Presiding Officer, that is the promise I make today to all those, past, present and future, who need our care. And in keeping that promise, as I am determined to do, I look forward to robust challenge, but also I hope to the cross-party support, interest and engagement of this Parliament. I commend this statement.
Thank you very much.
And of course that was the
next
First Minister,
item of
Nicola Sturgeon, speaking earlier on this afternoon at Holyrood. It's clear from what went on this afternoon in the Chamber that the Scottish Government, which has frequently been criticised for not doing the day job, is clearly getting its sleeves rolled up with this particular issue. Fiona Duncan, who is the review's chair, actually said today it's clearly not a system, when she was referring to the care system. And she also said that it's lots of different bureaucracies and rules that all operate alongside each other and bump into one another. The review called for a new unified children's care service and a strategy based around a 10-year plan written by all the services and agencies involved in the current care system, which need to be properly funded by Nicola Sturgeon's government. And today, of course, the First Minister has promised to do exactly that. And in a rare moment of unity, opposition parties at Holyrood have also promised to support implementing its recommendations as quickly as possible. And Nicola Sturgeon said today the reform system should have love and nurture at its heart. The priority must be provision of not a series of placements and arrangements driven by the needs of bureaucracy, but one of a stable, safe and loving lives. In what is thought to be the most forensic analysis ever undertaken, the review said that £942 million was spent each year by councils and agencies on formal care system, including fostering, adoption, secure care and a youth justice system. And there had been a tremendous amount of waste caused by repetition and overlaps in the system. So hopefully it's the start of something very important happening in Holyrood today. Now, next story also involves a statement in Holyrood today, and this one is on the new transport statement by the First Minister today. Sorry, I beg your pardon, by the Transport Minister today. And this is looking at the future of the future strategy of the Scottish Government for the years to come with regards to transport, particularly paying attention, of course, to the decarbonisation of the transport infrastructure in Scotland, with about £500 million already being earmarked for new buses, and with 2032 being the Scottish Government's target for the final year, if you like, for internal combustion engine cars being sold in Scotland. So we should now be able to hear from the Transport Minister from Holyrood in our next item.
The next item of business is a statement by Michael Matheson on the new transport strategy for Scotland, protecting our climate and improving lives. The Cabinet Secretary will take questions at the end of his statement, so there should be no interventions or interruptions. And I call on Michael Matheson. 10 minutes, please, Cabinet Secretary.
Presiding Officer, the National Transport Strategy is fundamental in setting out the strategic direction of transport policy for the years ahead, shaping the future provision of transport in Scotland around a shared vision, one that will protect our climate, and improve our lives. Since the 2006 strategy, there has been significant change in our society, including in our economy, in our environment, and in technology, and the new strategy recognises this. The strategy sets out the challenges associated with this pace of change and how these will be addressed. We have followed a collaborative approach throughout the process of developing the strategy. Over 60 transport partners have participated in developing the strategic framework, helping to shape the vision and consider the challenges and opportunities relating to the transport system. In parallel, our stakeholder engagement programme saw 6,500 people attend over 100 events in rural, island and urban communities across Scotland. And in summer 2019, we held a consultation on the draft strategy, which resulted in over 1,220 responses. We've updated the draft strategy to take account of the views expressed in the consultation and the strategy provision in the Transport Scotland Act 2019. Through our collaborative approach, we have crafted a compelling vision for the future of transport in Scotland over the next 20 years, one that will protect our climate and improve our lives. And our vision is that we will have a sustainable, inclusive, safe and accessible transport system, helping deliver a healthier, fairer and more prosperous Scotland for communities, businesses and visitors. The vision is underpinned by 4 key priority areas for transport: that it reduces inequality, takes climate action, helps deliver inclusive economic growth and improves health and well-being. The vision and priorities are the heart of the strategy and will form the basis upon which we take decisions and evaluate Scotland's transport policies going forward. Another important element of the strategy is our embedding of the sustainable travel hierarchy in decision-making by promoting sustainable and active transport and shared transport options in preference to single-occupancy private cars. And at the national level, the sustainable investment hierarchy will be used to inform future investment decisions and ensure transport options that prioritise reducing the need to travel unsustainably and maintaining our existing assets. These frameworks place sustainability foremost in transport decision-making and their implementation into all areas of transport planning and investment decisions will help deliver the transport system of the future for Scotland. Transport plays an important part in delivering the fully inclusive society we want to live in. In order to deliver that, we must address the challenges faced across our transport system. The strategy identifies these challenges as they relate to the 4 priorities. The first priority, reducing inequalities, is outcome-focused and reflects the breadth of our ambition. While not a right in itself, transport plays a key role in enabling people to realise their human rights by facilitating access to employment and public services such as healthcare and education. The strategy supports a rights-based approach to transport. It also highlights a range of inequalities that transport can help to tackle, including child poverty, gender inequalities, and ensuring accessible transport for disabled people, allowing everyone in Scotland to share in the benefits of a modern and accessible transport system. Regional inequalities and spatial differences are also recognised in the strategy, and the transport system must play its part, connecting people and communities to employment, services and social life events. Under the Takes Climate Action priority, the strategy recognises the biggest moral endeavour of our times in addressing the global climate emergency. There is a responsibility for us all to act, but it's important that government leads from the front and by example. Transport is responsible for 37% of Scotland's greenhouse gas emissions. Therefore, the move to low and zero carbon transport is essential to our future well-being. In response, the Scottish Government has made one of the most ambitious climate change commitments in the world to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2045. Over the 20-year period of the strategy, the role of transport in achieving this target will be crucial, not only requiring the use of low-carbon technology, but also significant societal changes, including encouraging people to move towards space-saving and sustainable travel choices, and reducing the demand for unsustainable transport. The measures in the Transport Scotland Act supports emission reductions in transport through encouraging modal shift. As an example of our commitment to this ambition, we are bringing forward transformational long-term funding for buses over £500 million. This significant support to the bus sector will remove congestion impacts from our bus routes, reduce journey times, and improve journey time reliability. However, as well as encouraging sustainable travel and reducing emissions, the transport system must also adapt to climate change impacts that are already being experienced. Under the third priority, the strategy recognises the fundamental role of transport in helping to deliver inclusive economic growth. The transport system plays a crucial role in the successful performance of Scotland's economy and ensuring regional cohesion. It enables people to get to work and ensures firms are able to get their goods and services to markets in Scotland and beyond. We are witnessing dramatic change for transport and how we access information, pay for journeys, and in the switch from internal combustion engines to electric alternatives. And if Scotland's economic potential is to be realised, our transport system must also adapt to these changes by improving our network resilience, integrating with new technologies, and preparing our workforce. One of the world's most successfully skilled skill systems, but we must build on this to address the challenges we face in Scotland, including an ageing workforce, depopulation of rural areas, digitalisation, and the global climate emergency. We must also support innovation to stimulate markets so that customers, businesses, and industry and our economy at large can harness the opportunities from zero-emission mobility in local and international markets. The fourth interlinked priority the strategy addresses is improving our health and well-being. Our transport system needs to be safe and secure, giving users confidence that they will reach their destination without threat, thereby encouraging active travel and sustainable public transport choices, whilst also benefiting public health. The transport system and the future transport needs of people will be at the heart of decision-making as we deliver healthier and more sustainable places. The transport system must reduce its negative impact on the health and well-being of the people of Scotland. And thankfully, we can take action that can simultaneously tackle multiple challenges. For example, by taking climate action and reducing inequalities, we can, in parallel, benefit public health by encouraging healthier active travel and reducing the associated harmful emissions. Poor air quality has a negative impact on all of our health, with the very young, the elderly, and those with pre-existing health conditions particularly vulnerable. In Scotland, particulate air pollution is shortening everyone's lifespan by approximately 3 to 4 months. This National Transport Strategy presents the strategic framework for our transport system over the next 20 years. We all have a responsibility for delivering the strategy and making it a success. From local and central government implementing policies to businesses and individuals taking account of their actions when making travel choices. Work has already begun in increasing the accountability of the transport sector and in strengthening our evidence base. Working with partners, we will publish a delivery plan that will set out how the strategy will be delivered. This will be regularly updated and provide detail on how the priorities will be realised through a range of actions, with key interventions flowing from the Climate Change Plan update and the second Strategic Transport Projects Review. Presiding Officer, this 20-year strategy is for all of Scotland. It's far-reaching in its impact and its ambition, and I'm confident its vision, and I'm happy to commit it to the Parliament today.
And that, of course, was the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure and Connectivity, Mr Michael Matheson, MSP. Now, the announcement today of this new transport strategy does have some details in it, although not a great deal in that particular piece to camera. But they have included, of course, £500 million, so £500 million for the improvement of the bus rolling stock. So we're talking about new electric buses, and also reducing journey times and improving reliability. And the Scottish Government is also committed to decarbonising the railways by 2035 and maintaining, as they say, record investment in active travel, meaning things like cycling and walking to work. Now, our final item this evening is actually more poll news, as if you needed any more polls. In the last few weeks, it seems to have been an endless stream of polls. In fact, the last few days, in fact. But this is another new poll. Brexit is driving support for a vote on Scotland's future. And it seems that voters are now backing a mandate for a new independence referendum. A new poll has confirmed that a majority of Scots believe that leaving the EU means Scots should have the right to choose their own future in an independence referendum. 56% believe that Brexit is a big enough change of circumstances to hold a referendum, whilst 53% agreed that the SNP's election win in December gives the party a mandate to hold a referendum. Earlier this week, a panel-based poll found that 52% majority in support of Scottish independence, and a third poll in a row showing a majority for yes. Professor John Curtis said that these polls confirm that support for independence is increasing, and it won't be sustainable for Westminster to deny the people of Scotland the right to choose. Now, this is something which the First Minister had predicted would happen, now being confirmed by the most prominent psephologist in the UK. Now, Keith Brown, the SNP deputy leader, has said today that the SNP has a cast-iron democratic mandate to hold an independence referendum. And that's not a matter of opinion, that is now a matter of fact. The more Boris Johnson tries to deny that fact, the more support for independence will continue to rise. The reality is that the Tories' opposition to an independence referendum looks more unsustainable by the day. Scotland has been dragged out of the EU against our will by a Tory government with no mandate here. A government which says it doesn't matter one jot of what the Parliament or the people of Scotland elect decides. An independence referendum is coming, and it will be a decision for the people of Scotland, not Boris Johnson or any Westminster politician. Scotland's future must be in Scotland's hands, and the people here will have the right to choose their own future as an independent nation. So again, we are now, if any more polls were necessary to convince us that independence is now looking a very much more popular choice for the people of Scotland, this is now the fourth in a row of official polls which now show a clear majority in Scotland, both in favour of holding a referendum and in favour of believing it's a right now to be able to choose independence over Brexit. Well, that is about it from this slightly shortened version of the show this evening, where I've been standing in for our usual host, Kenny McBride. As usual, if you want to support Broadcasting Scotland, the details of how to do that are on your screens now. You can become a supporter of Broadcasting Scotland for just £5 a month. Very good value considering the hike in the BBC licence fee that was announced recently. So why not put your money to work somewhere where it's going to do more good? Anyway, that's it from me this evening on Scotland at 7. I'll be returning to your screens next week on a Monday. In the meantime, Kenny will be back with you tomorrow, filling my usual slot after he has enjoyed, I think, a little bit of rock music tonight. He has tickets for something, I think, this evening. Anyway, that's it from me tonight. I'll see you again on Monday. Have a very good night. Good night.